This is how I use Inkscape to make board game art. When you make art for your board games, you're basically only doing two things. You're either creating polygons or you're creating text. Now, polygons can be created with the square tool like I just did, and you can resize them with these arrows. If you click them again, you can rotate them. Just like any program, you can copy and paste, and you can duplicate. You can create polygons with rectangles or the circle tool, but most commonly people will use the pen tool, also called the Bezier tool. This tool allows you to create nodes and to create polygons that way. But if you want to create curved lines, you have to click and hold. So for instance, if I click and then click and hold, I get these handles that allow me to curve my line. Now you'll notice because I held down the mouse, I have another curved line. If I don't want this line to also be curved, I can right click and begin the line anew. You can go to the node tool and click on any of our existing polygons to move them. Now, the most common thing you're going to be doing other than creating the polygons is changing their fill color. You use the fill and stroke menu to do that. So here we have the hue, saturation, lightness, and alpha channel. So you can make it lighter or darker, you can make it more saturated or not, and you can change the hue. Note that 1 out of 10 people are colorblind, so you're going to want to stick to these colors. Similarly, you can change the stroke, you can thicken it, you can put it behind the shape, in front of the shape. You can make it dashed. We're gonna remove that for now. Now let's say you have these two complicated shapes and you want to combine them. Now you could just group them with Control G and use Control Shift G to ungroup them. Or you can combine the two polygons using union, or you can take only where they're intersecting with intersection, or you can remove the part where the other shape is using difference. Then, let's say you have shapes here and you want to align them. You can use Control Shift A, get the align tools, align them by center to align them vertically, or you can select a group of shapes and space them out evenly in multiple dimensions. And then, let's say you want to use math to change things. Instead of doing it by hand, you can use the transform tool to say rotate it by 5 degrees. When we create text in Inkscape, we either just click and start typing and it won't wrap. We click and drag to make a text area that does allow wrapping. We can also create a shape, change its color to a darker color, maybe a white, and then we can click text and flow into frame. It's actually behind it now. So you can move things forward and backward using page up and page down. Now let's say you want to make the Starbucks logo. Starbucks. Make it nice and dark. Create a line and make it a bit curved. We just want the line, we don't want the fill. We don't need it nearly that thick. And then we can select our text, select our line, and go to text, put on path. And now we can hide this line. Starbucks. Now when I make board game art, I use templative, and templative actually can edit the properties of specific elements in the file, but I have to name them. So to do that, we go to Edit, XML editor, and you see the thing that I've selected is selected in the XML editor, and I can change the ID from rect22 to background rectangle or whatever I want to name it, and then I can find it in templative by looking at that ID. We have like an 8.5 by 11 page here. We can actually go to document properties and change the size of it. Yeah, it's like 8.2 by 11. I know that poker cards are 825 by 1125. This is how big a poker card is when you give it to the Game Crafter, one of the board game manufacturing websites. When we want to export it, we go to export, and then we choose the DPI, either 300 for print and 96 for the web. You'll notice that changing the DPI, the dots per inch, changes the clarity of the final image, but it also changes the size of the final image, so we're going to want to resize this so that the DPI is correct. Templative handles this for us. If we take this text and we want to make it more distinct from the green background, we can go to Filters, Shadows, and Drop Shadows. Go to live preview, not that far away, and not blurry at all. Now we have a drop shadow. Now it's supremely distinct from the other. It's a bit too sharp, if you ask me, so we can remove the filters, maybe like 1.5, much better. When we want to resize the text, we can change the font size and the font, but we can also just arbitrarily change the shape. We can also, when we line wrap by pressing enter, we can change the spacing of the lines. And with that, that's most of the tools I use to make all of the art in Inkscape.